Hey folks, James here with Base Zero Studios. So today we are going to show you how to use a few tricks here in Photoshop to quickly create a thumbnail, and in doing so create a template that you can use going forward to create other thumbnails for your videos. Too many videos on YouTube either have poorly constructed or just uh, uninteresting thumbnails in general. And again, with a few just a few tricks, you could actually create some thumbnails that people will be more apt to look at because it catches their eye, and then in turn watch your video. All right, so let's go ahead and start with this image here that I pulled up. This is for a friend's tool review and demo channel. And while the image in and of itself is it's a great image, it's clear, good lighting, the product in question is in the forefront here, there's still just a lot going on that would prevent it from being a great thumbnail for a video. So what we're going to do is we're going to isolate the product off the background, show you some options for treating the background, and then put some text over top of it, and then ultimately uh, set this up as a template that you can use over and over again to create additional thumbnails for your videos. All right. First thing we're going to need is we are going to need our pen tool. So I'm going to grab our pen tool here. And before you get started in any kind of Photoshop work, always make a copy um, of your layer that you're working on. All right. So I'm just going to right click on this and say duplicate layer. Okay, another way to do it is just to select the layer and come up here to the little sub menu, and you'll see here it says duplicate layer. All right, and we'll just call this backup, and I'll move it below the layer that we're going to work on. All right, so, and we can just, for right now, we'll turn that layer off. Let's go to the Shearer tool layer, which is what we will be creating or isolating from our background. Again, with the pen tool selected, we are going to go ahead and start applying a mask around this tool. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here and finish out the mask for this tool because it will take a little bit of time, and there's no reason to put you through watching all of that. Okay, so we're back, and as you can see here, we have completed our mask. We've applied our path to the perimeter of the tool. Be sure to remember also to mask the inside, any negative space around your tool, as we've done here. And then let's head over to the path palette here up in the top right. And you'll see here we've already converted it to a clipping mask. Basically, and I'll just real quick like create another path here to show you what I mean. So let's imagine that we used our pen tool to create this path here. It's a work path to start with, and and while you can use it to make selections, any work that you do on a new path will be replaced by this path. So if I click off of here, you'll see that my work path has been replaced by the new path that I've created here. Now, if you want to save that, then what you'll do is you'll convert this to a clipping path. All right. Quick way to do that is just to double click on the icon for the work path and then call it whatever you want. And now it'll save it. And then the next time you go to make another path, it'll create a new work path. Okay, so be sure to save your paths so you can come back to it later. All right, if you need to use it for something else. All right, so we've gone ahead and we've masked out and created a clipping path for our tool. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this path and then we'll go make it into a selection by clicking on this menu here and making it a selection. And you'll know that the selection is active because you get these little marching ants, uh, as they're referred to around the selection, that lets you know that it is active. All right, so we want to keep that selection active. We're going to come back to our Shearer tool layer, and we are going to click on this icon down here, which is Add Layer Mask. And just like that, we've isolated the product off of the background. Now, holding down the Shift key and clicking on the layer mask, you'll see that the background is still there. We've just created a mask that hides it. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to give our background a little bit of a treatment. All right, so that'll be the first step in isolating this up off the background visually. So I'm going to duplicate our backup layer over here. And we'll just go ahead and duplicate that. And I'm going to call this background layer. Okay, and we'll enable it so you can see it. Now it's behind the shearer tool, so anything that we do to this layer is actually going to be behind the shearer tool layer. Okay, so a number of things that you can do. This is really kind of up to you, but let me give you a couple of ideas. So one of the first and easier things that you can do is go ahead and apply a filter. And there's a number of different filters that you can choose um, and effects, or we can do something that is a little bit more in use. You see on a lot of in a lot of situations today, and that is using something like a blur tool. Now I opened up the blur gallery. Okay, let me show you here. Blur, and again, it's outside of the. If you go to filters and then blur gallery right here, um, you can use this to experiment and try out a number of different blurs and find the one that you like. There's field blurs, there's iris blurs, tilt shift, path, there's all different kinds of things that you can do, but let's just use the field blur to keep it simple. All right, I'm going to apply a decent amount of blur to it, and then I'll just go ahead and click up here where it says OK, and now the blur has been applied to our background. All right, now the cool thing is this is a smart filter. All right, if you want, you can double click into this and go back in and make some changes if you like. All right. In this particular case, we like what we got, so we're going to leave it. All right. Now, another thing that you can do, if you like, and if not, then just press forward from here. Some people like to colorize the background a little bit. Well, a real simple way to do that is just to create a new layer. All right. Select your color here that you want to use. All right. So I've got this kind of woodsy, coppery brown color. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to edit, and we're going to fill that layer with the foreground color. All right. Now we've kind of hit our background layer, and that's okay because up here in our opacity palette, our layers palette, we have an opacity control that we can just go ahead and pull back a little bit on the opacity. And now look, we have even more isolation with a suggestion of the original background in the background. Okay, pretty nifty. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because I want to just work with the background layer set to a certain blur ratio here. All right. So next thing that we're going to do is we're going to explore layer effects. So I'm going to come up here to our shearer tool layer, which again, if you remember, it's stacked on top of this background layer that we put our blur on. And you can either just double click on the layer, not on the name, but on the layer to the side or on the image itself, or just right click and go to layer effects. All right, and it's right, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I'm sorry. This is a smart object. So the first thing we'll have to do is we'll have to rasterize it. Now we can go ahead and turn on our layer effects. Artwork layer, da 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 da. Okay, did I do something incorrectly here? Okay, layer style. So that brought it up. I'm just trying to find it in the menu here. Okay, maybe we need to do it from the menu here. Artboard. Okay, new layers. All right, well, I guess not. So we're just going to go ahead and double click on our layer. For some reason, I thought it was in our layer palette here where we could actually enable the layer effects. It's probably up here in the main menu is where I'm new fill layer styles. Yeah, so it's in the layer styles. Why is it not over here, or is it and I just went past it? Layers, lock layers. Okay, well, regardless, all you need to do is just double click on the layer icon itself. So let's just do that. And now we're going to open up our layer styles. All right. So again, you have a number of options here, but the one that we're going to be covering today and that I see used most is something that's called the stroke. All right. So we're basically applying a stroke to the outer perimeter of our layer. Now, right now it's set to a gradient. I'm going to come back here and just select a solid color. We'll set it to white. And you can kind of see we're getting already with it, we're getting some good isolation here. And it kind of gives it an icon look, if you will. We can increase the size of that if we want or diminish it. Let's put it right about there, about 13 pixels on this particular image. And then I'm also going to come down here. We can apply multiple effects to the layer at once. I'm going to come down here and click on drop shadow. And I kind of like the defaults. The defaults seem to be good. So I'm just going to leave it where it's at. But if you want, you can mess with the settings here. You can move the distance. You can change the angle. All different kinds of things that you can, different settings that you can tweak here to get the look the way that you want. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And again, you can kind of see now that we're getting. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. That we're getting a better icon look to this thumbnail art. All right. All right. So last thing is we're going to need some graphics, or I'm sorry, some titles over our graphics, in and around our graphics, I should say. Now I've gone ahead and already set up the title with a font that we've selected here in a default white presentation. So there's our initial title of the video, and then a subtitle that goes along with it. Laid over top of our topmost layer, which again is the shearer tool. Now again, these graphics are a little bit boring, so again, I'm going to go ahead and just double click on the layer itself, the text layer, which will bring up our layer style palette. And then I'm going to go ahead and mess around a little bit with the coloring and do some different things here that will make this text really pop. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on a gradient overlay, which gives me a gradient. I've got a whole panel of gradients here. I can create new gradients. I can tweak this one by clicking on it and moving things around and just, really kind of setting it up to look the way that I want. Maybe I want it to go a little lighter yellow here. So I'll just move that around there. All right, and then click OK. And so now we've got a gradient overlaying our text. Let's go ahead and hit it with a drop shadow. You see that, how it really just brings it up off the background. Let's go ahead and hit it with a stroke too. All right, so we've got a dark blue stroke. I kind of like that, but I think it's a little too dark. So let me go ahead and lighten up our blue stroke a little bit. All right, I kind of like that. And the stroke's a little heavy, so let's go ahead and just pull that down a little bit, class it up just a little bit. All right, I think that's good for our main title. Let's go ahead and click OK. And now you'll see again, I'm going to go ahead and turn the effects off in our layer so you can see the difference. So that was our original white text that we had set up with our font. And then when we turn the effects back on, you can really see the difference that it makes. Okay, really pops up off of that image. All right, so let's do the same thing here with our universal fit. I'm going to go ahead and double click on the layer here to the side to bring up our layer style palette. Let's go ahead and hit that with a stroke. White stroke, I feel like that's a little harsh, so let's go ahead and tone that down just a little bit. No, that's too much. Just kind of get it to a point where just a hint of gray there. I'm going to diminish that stroke a little bit, and then I'm going to hit it with a drop shadow too. Again, just to apply a little bit of dimension to it. We could hit it with a gradient, but I'm thinking that the original color might be just fine. Although I like that too. Yeah, let's go with that. Why not? We'll click OK, and that by itself would probably be just fine. But I think what I want to do is I want to create a little box here. You'll see this happen. You'll see this taking place sometimes to further lift off that subtitle and provide just another element into your layout that again provides some visual interest. So I'm going to grab my vector shape tool. All right, and I typed the letter U to get to it, but it's over here on your palette. I'm going to grab the rectangle. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to just kind of go a little bit underneath the top text and encase the bottom copy, as well as run it behind my tool a little bit. Now you see here, again, depending on where it's stacked in the layer, um, we got it beneath the text, the top text, but it's over top of our universal fit text and over top of the tool. So all we need to do is just come over here to our layers palette, drag it down to where we want it, and there we go. All right, so I'm going to, it's a solid box. If you like that look, that's fine. Personally, I like different levels of opacity to kind of interplay with the elements on the page. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to a multiply and then back the opacity down just a little bit. Okay, and again, you can change the colors up if you want. If you want it to be a little bright, you want it to be a little brighter, you can go ahead and fill that with a brighter color. You can go a completely different direction on the color palette, do something like that. That works too. This is really up to you how you want to present your product, and maybe you want to key certain videos with certain colors so they're visually easy to pick out later when people are watching them, or if you're putting playlists together and things like that. So next thing to do would be to output your file, and that's pretty much just exporting it as a JPEG or a PNG. If you like, JPEGs are smaller in compression, but they do compress, whereas a PNG, they're typically not compressed at all. And then whatever service you're uploading your thumbnail to, when it compresses it, it won't be recompressing it like if you upload a JPEG. So this is James with Base Zero Studios. Hopefully this has been helpful in helping you create a thumbnail and a template now that you can swap out your backgrounds and your mask pieces to create different thumbnails for all your videos. As always, like, follow, subscribe, and we appreciate you showing up. Have a great day. Stay healthy. Be safe. We'll talk to you soon.